Hello and welcome back to The Lion's Den, the only podcast where the host's favourite biscuit is probably a ginger nut. I do love a good ginger nut, or a chocolate hobnob. Chocolate hobnobs are actually so addicted for me. I burned through so many of them at university. Anyway, hello, I'm your host Matt as always, and today I have actually got a topic of conversation that I want to discuss because it keeps coming up in my mind. I really apologise if there's a lot of fan noise. My laptop is being really annoying. Windows, that's all you need to know. Anyway, let's talk about old video games because there is a certain sense of nostalgia that old video games have over us, and you can have so many triggers that take you back to that time of when you were like 10 years old, sitting on the floor in front of an older style, maybe a plasma TV or maybe even a CRT TV if you're that old, and just playing some really classic, awesome games. And the fun thing is, I haven't gotten rid of any gaming stuff that I've ever had throughout my life. I have everything from the very early days of my gaming career, if you will. And they all still function, they all still work. Mostly because they just get put away in a box somewhere and then they survive somehow in less than ideal conditions, honestly. But I've been made more aware recently of more newer stuff and the problems they have and how to kind of keep them going. So, great. So I just want to talk about a couple of games that have been on my mind recently that I just have such huge nostalgia for. And it all started because some TikTok videos that are popping up on YouTube Shorts have been using a remixed or just a covered version of the song Black Betty by like some heavy metal rock, not heavy metal, just some like rock band. It's like a rock cover of it. And I love that song. It's so good. And it reminds me specifically of Need for Speed Underground 2 because it's featured on that soundtrack. It's a fantastic song, and it's a fantastic song for that game especially. And yeah, such good memories of that game. That was, to me, the kind of golden era of Need for Speed. The graphics meant less, and it was more about having these absolutely decked out cars with lights and decals, colours, the whole works, and making them as ridiculously overtuned as possible, and then driving around with absolutely no consequences. Because the beauty of Underground 2 is that it had no police system and it had no damage system either. You can have these like spectacular crashes that had all of this like small slow-mo cutscene, but there was no consequence for it. You just then picked up and drove off. So that was also really fun. And it was just really good fun, a really good period for the Need for Speed games. And the music was great. What I didn't realize is I went back and played it fairly recently, and the controls are so weird. I am much more used to modern driving games, and certainly much more used to cartoon/arcade racers, where the controls are so much more tighter and so much lighter than this game. This feels like actually driving a real car. It's really heavy. You're sliding all over the place. It's all a bit slow and clunky. And I'm sat there thinking, how did I as a child ever like progress in this game? Because this is really hard, but it's still really good. Such fond memories of it. Taking bog standard cars and just turning them into monstrous and weird things that I loved. I always used to judge my dad as well, because the way he used to do the upgrades for the cars is you could either buy a package or you could buy individual components. I, just as a casual, would buy the components and just stock up the car that way. My dad would go in and like pick out specific components he wanted. I'm looking at him like, why have you done this? You're so far behind in terms of story progression. Like, what are you doing? Anyway, that was fun. The other thing that relates back to music is a game called Ultimate Band. Now, this was on the Wii. I don't know if it was on any other consoles. I think it was on the DS. I mean, when I say other consoles, I mean non-Nintendo consoles. But Ultimate Band was this weird hybrid rhythm game using the motion controls as well as buttons. And it's actually phenomenal. I went back and replayed this game. And the thing that really impressed me is that the menu is horrible. It's really laggy and slow. Getting around is a choppy, horrible nightmare. But when you're in the game, playing the core experience, the actual rhythm game element, flawless. It doesn't drop a frame. Everything's tight. It feels good. It feels like it's actually picking up what I'm doing and doing it accurately, despite me not doing it accurately. and there is no issue, which is phenomenal. You've nailed it, basically. That's a rhythm game to a T. Who cares if the menu lags to hell and you haven't got a clue what you're picking? As long as the actual core element of playing it is good and tight and fun, who cares? It's actually really impressive that it works so well, considering it's a Wii game, right? The songs in this game are fantastic. They are what I would call Disney kids versions of very popular mainstream songs. And the funny thing is, I stumbled upon this song on Spotify, and it was, oh gosh, I can't actually remember the name of the song. Let me just quickly look it up. It is, funnily enough, a Fall Out Boy song, which I didn't even realize I had a Fall Out Boy song that I liked. It is The Takeover, The Breaks Over. What a fantastic song. What a fantastic thing to play in this game. Obviously, it's like the kids' version of it, and any other songs that are in this game are like kids' versions, and they're not sung by the original people, they're sung by the band that you play as. But it's so good, it's really enjoyable, and I think the fact that it's real music is what makes it so fun. That's my biggest draw for rhythm games, is what is the music like, and then what are the mechanics like. If the music is really good, I'll put up with the mechanics. And if the mechanics are wacky, weird, and fun, that's just icing on the cake. This one is... How do we explain it? You've got 4 things. You've got a guitarist, a bassist, a frontman, and a drummer. And the guitar and the bassist work the same way. You have a nunchuck and a Wii remote. And the Wii remote, you just wiggle to pretend like you're strumming. And then you press buttons on the nunchuck to choose the fret, if you will, as to what you're playing. The frontman just has actions you do, like you waggle the remotes around and you put them in positions as if you're performing. It sucks. That's the worst one, because you're stood there pretending like you're singing the song, which, I mean, you can sing if you want, but you get nothing out of it because it's a Wiimote, not a microphone, so you just kind of look like an idiot. And then the drummer is insane, because you have normal like drum beats as if you're hitting the actual drums and the snares and whatnot, and you have cymbal hits which are sideways flicks, and then they also throw in spinning one or the other, which is really confusing because I don't think drummers just spin the sticks whilst they're playing. I don't know. The drumming one is fine, but not quite as enjoyable to play because it's confusing. But yeah, it's surprisingly good. The timing is really tight. It works really nicely. There is only one action which requires you to press the B button and then wiggle the remote up and down rapidly, and that one just seems to have terrible registration. It doesn't seem to register how fast you're wiggling it, but I don't know if that's a deficiency of the game or the controller or what, or maybe it's my technique. Not entirely sure. It's a small issue in amongst the plethora of really good stuff in it. So I also remember the story being weirdly enjoyable, because it's kind of like a rags to riches style thing where you start out as this, like cover band in a garage. Don't ask. And then you get scouted by some producer and you slowly work your way up through Battle of the Bands, I think is the concept. And you move up venue bigger and bigger and bigger until you are the, quote, ultimate band. So that's really cool. And some of the background stages, the way they're animated and react to how the song progresses, looks super awesome. So highly recommend looking that up and even getting it to just try it out and mess around. It's super fun. Yeah, 10 out of 10. And the final one, which I've talked about before, is Sonic Colors, because I got really bummed out when they made the remake of Sonic Colors and it was not a good remake, because I love this game. It was fantastic when I bought it as a kid. I remember being extremely excited about it, remembering that I bought the game, but it was the middle of the week and I'm a good boy, so I couldn't play it until the weekend. But yeah, I loved playing that game. It's probably one of the few games that I ever fully completed as a child, and then I went back and replayed the whole thing like a year or two ago when the remake came out, just because I was like, screw buying the remake that's broken, I'm just gonna play the original, because I have a Wii and the game and controllers and whatnot. So the fun thing is, it has a stupid amount of controller support. You can play with a Wiimote, you can play with a nunchuck, a Pro Controller, I think they're called a Pro Controller, no, they're called a Classic Controller on the Wii. You can play with a GameCube, which I do have a GameCube controller. Super good, super fun, and the music, fantastic. Oh, I have some of the Sonic Colors music in my Spotify library, and every time it comes on, my face just lights up because it's super good. And I can almost tell you what track it is based on the sound. I know them that well. So, yeah, that's just a game. That's just a good Sonic game. I think it was one of the early boost formula, as they call it, where you have the boost gauge, and obviously you have all the wisp powers, which are really fun and enjoyable. And we don't talk about Starlight Carnival because it's terrible, despite what people tell me. And it doesn't take itself seriously, right? It's just supposed to be fun, entertaining, lighthearted, a little bit sentimental towards the end, but nothing too overblown. And it's just a good game. I assume the remake is decent because it's based off a great game in the first place, but you could always just play the original one, or I hear emulators do the things that the remake promised to do, like up-resing textures and making it, there's like a 60 FPS patch that people have made, so go do it. Anyway, I'm gonna get out of here now, because I think I'm about to explode from talking way too fast. Anyway, stay safe, and I'll see you all next week. Bye!